Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone for the Sunday morning session on the science of self-realization. Let us begin a session with the prayers to Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Ganadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ki Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome for the Sunday morning session on the science of self-realization again. And we have a very interesting topic for discussion in this chilled morning in this part of the country. The spiritual communism. We'll be taking forward with our discussion with the second part of the discussion. So far, we have discussed a few points which we will have a quick recap of them. It's a very wonderful topic which Prabhupada had with one professor from the University of Moscow, Professor Katowski. He was the professor of Indology in the university and teaching Vedic studies to students there. So Prabhupada had this rare opportunity of having a very wonderful conversation with this professor about the various Vedic understandings about the communistic way of life. So this conversation happened in the year 1971, July. So all this inspiration for this various sessions we are having is from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of Worldwide Hare Krishna movement, who has very mercifully given us these teachings recorded for our understanding and so that we can assimilate them in our present life and perfect our lives. So we are greatly obliged to Prabhupada. So we discussed in the previous session spiritual communism. Prabhupada gives the idea of the Vedic conception of communism, right? Vedic conception of communism is that everything belongs to, all the property belongs to God. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. And everybody has given a specific allotment of the whatever he is supposed to enjoy for his life. His quota has been given. And this is the Vedic conception of communism. Whereas the modern day communistic idea is that everything belongs to state or people, and there's no recognition of God in one sense. And then all the things have to be enjoyed by the state and the people. That's how the modern way of communistic idea is. And Prabhupada also mentioned how in the Vedic conception, the idea of having the feeling of compassion and care in the householders was such that even a lizard or a snake in the house would be given food by the householders. And a householder is supposed to come out of the street before he has his food and call out loudly 3 times. Is there anybody hungry? And if somebody is found hungry, then he is inviting him to the house and going to feed him. And after that, he is going to take his food. That is the type of Vedic communism. Vedic communism basically means that every living entity is part and parcel of God, and everybody has to be cared for as a responsible person in the society, in the whole community. So this we discussed, and also there was a discussion of how the professor was telling the Russians are taking a lot of interest in the Vedic studies. Many Vedic literatures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Manusmriti were being translated in Russian, and they were all sold out of stock. And then the students also, people also taking a lot of interest in the Vedic understanding. And in this context, Prabhupada mentions how the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, is a very important Vedic literature. Prabhupada wanted to impress upon that Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literatures. So this also has to be translated in Russian. Prabhupada's desire was that. And in this course of discussion, there was some exchange of talks between the professor and Prabhupada regarding Hinduism. Prabhupada clarified that this word Hinduism is a word coined by the Mohammedans because people who are living on the other side of the river Sindh, they are called Hindus. They can't pronounce I, see S, so they call it as H. They pronounce it as H. Sir they cannot pronounce, they call it as her, Hindu. And whereas Prabhupada gave the real identity of the Indian Vedic culture is called Varnashrama, wherein society is divided into 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas, right? 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. We discussed to some extent today. Again, we're going to discuss more on this aspect. So the society was divided based on the type of activities one is inclined to do, karma. Guna karma vibhagashaha chatur varanyam maya shishnam. Prabhupada was giving the Vedic reference of Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita. The 4 varnas or the 4 social divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is based on their type of inclination of work and the type of specific qualities they have acquired in their previous lives. And the 4 ashramas are the spiritual orders, which basically the student life, the householder life, the retired life, and the renounced life, called Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Right? This is what Prabhupada was mentioning nicely and explaining to the professor. The professor also was giving references of Vedic literatures, how it is all prevalent in the Vedic times in India. And Prabhupada specifically mentioned that this Varnashrama creation is not man-made. It was created by Lord Krishna himself from the beginning of creation. Right? So let's move forward with our discussion. Prabhupada, in this course of his discussion, he stresses on the point of need for a systematic establishment of 4 orders of life. Prabhupada says that, of course, these 4 orders are there, but it is all in a very distorted manner. Nobody is following anything. And Prabhupada stresses on the need of establishing a systematic way of Varnashrama Dharma. In fact, Prabhupada always used to say his disciples that my establishing Iskcon and preaching Krishna consciousness is only 50% of my job done. 50% more task is still pending. And Prabhupada wanted to establish a Varnashrama system, the entire society, because at least people will gradually elevate themselves to the spiritual path, step by step, because general populace will not accept the principles of bhakti immediately. So Prabhupada's desire was that he wanted to establish Varnashrama system, right? So for that reason, he had told his disciples in different contexts. In fact, in Vrindavan, Prabhupada was discussing at a length about this particular aspect of establishing Varnashrama. And he had a farm in America, Gita Nagari, wherein he wanted to have this model being established of Varnashrama there, right? So this was Prabhupada's desire. So this is still unfulfilled. As followers of Prabhupada, we should take it forward. So the professor, as in the course of discussion, he says, you have said that in any society there are 4 divisions, but they are not so easy to distinguish. He's putting his point of view and telling that right now, I don't think so we can distinguish them. For instance, he further says, one can group together different social classes and professional groups into 4 divisions in any society. There is no difficulty. The only difficulty is, for instance, in the socialistic society in our country and other socialist societies, how we can distinguish the productive group from the workers. He has his own way of presenting his understanding of what he's seeing, because the Varnashrama system was a Vedic system which is Prabhupada very strongly mentioned that yes, it is present everywhere across the world. But specifically, this professor wanted to understand how we can have these divisions identified in the present day context, especially in a socialistic society of theirs, in which there is a difference between productive group and the workers in his language. So Prabhupada is clarifying. For example, we belong to the intellectual division of men. Right? We are trying to give this understanding to people about the Vedic knowledge. So we belong to the intellectual class. This is the division. So intelligent class, Brahmanas. And you can also put together all the intelligentsia in that department, the professor is telling. Yes, understand, intelligent people, we can group them. Scientists, philosophers, thinkers, they are all intelligent class. Acknowledges, yes. And then there is administrative class. Prabhupada acknowledges. But who are Vaishyas and Shudras? That is a difficulty. Vaishyas and Shudras. Vaishya means Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam, who are producing the farm products and they're trading. Right? And Shudras means the workers. So this is the confusion the professor had. How can you distinguish these two classes or distinguish them in the society? Because all others are workers, factory workers, collective farm workers, and so on. Now we can see they're all workers only. We cannot distinguish who is the actually Vaishya or who is the Shudra. That was his question. So from this point of view, there is a great distinction, in my opinion, between socialist society and all societies preceding socialism. He's giving his viewpoint, professor, that there is a sort of a distinction between this society, which you are telling, Varnashrama, and the present day system. Because in modern Western society, you can group all social and professional classes in these particular class divisions. His version again, right? This is what presently we can say. This actually, there's no such clear distinction between these various divisions of Varnashrama in the present day society, right? You can say social classes and professional classes. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, intellectuals, productive class, owners of the productive system, factory owners, for instance. So like this, there are various divisions of society. But here you have no Vaishyas because you have administrative staffs in factories. You can call them Kshatriyas. The administration of any institution, a factory or a company, you can call them Kshatriyas. But where are Vaishyas? I cannot see clearly, or I cannot distinguish, or I cannot specifically see them. That's what his question was. And then there are the Shudras, the workers themselves, but no intermediate class. So the whole point which this professor is trying to make is these four divisions cannot be easily identifiable presently, and it looks like there are some classes are missing in the present day situation. Because Prabhupada's point was this type of four classes are available or present in every society. So Prabhupada gives a very nice understanding on this. Prabhupada says this present age is called Kali Yuga. It is stated that Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In this age, practically all men are Shudras. You see, Prabhupada, very nicely he is telling. All men in this age are called Shudras. And if there are simply Shudras, the social order will be disturbed. That's what the present day situation is. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Kali Yuga, people are only Shudra. Shudras mean they only want to work under different, say, business people, or some professions. Even the professionals are called Shudras in the present day society. The engineers and everybody are called Shudras. In spite of your state of Shudras, the Brahmanas is found here, and that is necessary. Prabhupada says, yes, in spite these Shudras are there, but there are some intellectual class of people. They are called Brahmanas. Again, we should not misunderstand or mistake these divisions of society, social divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra as a caste. Right? These are not caste divisions. Prabhupada explains this as we move forward. They are divisions based on the inclination of work. Caste means right now people say you are born in a particular caste, so you belong to this caste. Oh, I'm a Brahmana. Why? Because my father is a Brahmana. my family is a Brahmin family, or I'm a Vaishya because my family is a Vaishya family. So this was not the criterion of say division of society in the Vedic times, right? The division of society was based on the inclination of work, type of the type of gunas they have acquired, they have, for the particular type of work. And just like we have examples of Vishwamitra Muni, who was a Kshatriya earlier, but he later became a Brahmana by his performance of tapasya, penances. So, whereas uh, Parashurama was born as a Brahmana, but he later became a Kshatriya by taking up these sword, taking up weapons in his hand to kill all the miscreant Kshatriyas. So, like this, the birth is not the criteria. The activities and the inclination of work with which they are disposed with is the criteria. So here Prabhupada says that yes, we see mostly Shudras in Kali Yuga, but of course there are few intellectual class of people also. If you do not divide the social order in such a way, there will be chaos. Chaos means social order has to be there, otherwise there will be chaotic. There should be people who are intellectual, there should be people who are administrative, right? Society will be in chaos if you don't have proper divisions of society. That is a scientific estimation of the Vedas. Because Vedas, which is given by Lord Krishna himself, has this viewpoint, specific viewpoint. You may belong to the Shudra class, but to maintain social order, you have to train some of the Shudras to become Brahmanas. Right now, we can see everybody, the Shudra basically, again, is not a caste. The type of disposition a person has, I only want to work, just like Prabhupada says, you take degrees, you get degrees, and you're looking for a job. Right? You're specifically trained in a specific field of knowledge, technical field of knowledge, and you're looking for a specific job. Again, this is the mentality of a Shudra, right? So this is what Prabhupada wants to tell us, that whatever it is, society may be filled with the worker category of people now, but we have to train some people to become Brahmanas because it's essential. Society cannot function without Brahmanas. Society cannot depend on Shudras, nor can it depend on the Brahmanas. Very nice example Prabhupada is going to give further now. Right? We should have everybody in society, and it should be a balanced society. Not only one section of society is there and others are missing. To fulfill the necessities of your body, there must be a brain, arms, a stomach, and legs. Right? Like in our body, we have various parts. We have our head, the brain, we have our arms, we have a stomach, and we have legs. The legs, the brain, and the arms are all required for cooperation to fulfill the mission of the whole body. Every part of the body has a specific role. Right? We cannot say this is not required, this is required. Right? When some part is missing or some part is not there, we call them he's handicapped. Right? His hand is not functioning, or he lost his leg, right? Or he lost his good memory. He has become mad. It's like this. Something is missing. That person is not a normal person, right? He is handicapped, physically challenged. So in any society, you can see that unless there are these four divisions, there will be chaos. The whole background with which Prabhupada is trying to tell us is these four divisions should be there. If it is missing, then the society will be handicapped. There will be lack of, because of the lack of that particular section of society, particular class of people, society is not moving forward in the right direction. That's what it means. The further Prabhupada says, it will not work properly. It will be Maya, and there will be disturbance. In the present society, you see, because there is no Brahmana, no intellectual class to guide people. Intellectual again doesn't mean simply you have to intellectually think about the comforts of material life. No, we have to also think about the spiritual aspect of our life, the purpose of life, human form of life. This direction is lacking, because of which the society will not work properly. It will be Maya and there will be disturbances. Very nice understanding Prabhupada is giving. The brain must be there. At the present moment, there is a scarcity of brains. Right? Brain means direction. We have clarity on thought and we moving forward in the right way. What is the purpose of life? What is the goal in life is very clear. I'm not talking of your state or my state. I'm talking of the whole world, Prabhupada says. Right? I'm not specifically telling about this or that. I'm just giving the Vedic understanding. These 4 divisions of society should be there. If it is not there, we have to train some people to take that role, because it is required in society. That's what Prabhupada is trying to stress here. So the professor's question was, right now we can't see the society having all those divisions, 4 divisions in its original shape and form. The Prabhupada says, yes, it is not there. Why? Because present day society is only made up of Shudras. Kalo Shudra Sambha. It is predicted like this. Everybody wants to only work under somebody. But they don't have any proper direction in their life. So Prabhupada says we have to train some section of society to take up the role of a Brahmana, Kshatriya. Just like often people ask a question to us, why did you become a full-time missionary? It's exactly what Prabhupada wanted, because Prabhupada created this Iskcon society to have some section of people or some people from humanity that they can take up this role of guiding society from as per the Vedic directions. The teachings of Gita, Bhagavatam should be given to everybody. So somebody has to take the role. So Prabhupada created this movement. It is like telling some people amongst us are recruited as army people or people in defense. Why? Because they are required. They have to be there to defend the country. They have to be standing at the borders or whatever roles they've been given, and that's why our country is safe. It's required. And there's a requirement of doctors who are available 24 hours for any service of anybody's life. So like this, everybody is playing a specific role. This example of body having different various functions, and all the functions being cooperated for the proper upkeep of the body. Whole body is very important. Wonderful example. Right? Likewise, in society, all these various sections of society are required to keep the proper upkeep of the whole society. That's the point. And further, Prabhupada says, this is what is the scientific way of having societies, various divisions. Formerly, the Indian administration was a monarchy. There was a king, and king used to rule the whole society. For example, Maharaj Parishit was a Kshatriya king. Just before his death, he renounced his royal order. You know the history of Parishit Maharaj, how he was cursed by a Brahmana boy to die in the next 7 days because of some incident what happened in his life. So he prepared for his death by giving up his administration to his son Janameja, and he was preparing himself to leave the body and then attain perfection of life, that is spiritual perfection of going back to spiritual world. Just see the way the kings were trained. He came to the forest to hear about self-realization. He came to the bank of the Ganges and was preparing himself to leave the spirit, leave this world, leave his body and go to spiritual world. If you want to maintain the peace and prosperity of the whole world society, Prabhupada recommends, then you must create a very intelligent class of men. So in the Vedic times, the kings were called as Raja Rishis. They were not simply kings, they were saintly kings, which means they had a proper direction with regard to how the life has to move on. We have examples in Bhagavatam descriptions. The kings, after a certain time, after ruling the kingdom, they used to retire from their kingly duties and hand over to the next generation, and they would retire for spiritual progress. Right. So this is very important. This understanding was very much, clear in everybody's way of life. Right. Less like in everybody's lifespan, there's a student period. Then there is a householder period. Then we have to retire from household life at one point of time and take up the vanaprastha. Now that whole life you are full entangled with your family, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and business, that's it. No, that is not the life. Prabhupada says this is the life of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra used to live like this. Up to the last point of his death, he wanted to be having royal comfort and want to enjoy himself as a king. That is not Vedic understanding. The Bhagavatam says, Panchashordhvam vanam vrajet. After 50 years, you have to retire from your active household life and take up the life of retirement. Bhagavatam, in fact, mentions you have to go to a holy place and spend your time in spiritual way of activities. Otherwise, whole life you have lived 50% of your life already have finished. Balanced life, how much life time is there, we don't know. At least 100 years is the span of human being in Kali Yuga. But who is living 100 years? Right, 60, 70, 80. Right, so the balanced life at least you should spend for your spiritual perfection. That is the whole purpose, right? So the kings were very much in that way trained in this way, and Prabhupada is stressing on the point, you must create a very intelligent class of men. And there should be a class of men expert in administration, right? Because society requires all of them. A class of men expert in production, and a class of men to work. Means everybody is required in society. Just like for the proper upkeep of the body, every part of the body should work cooperatively for the whole body. So that is required. You cannot avoid it. That is the conception from the Vedic understanding. Bhagavatam says, Mukha Bahuru Pada Ja. It says, Mukha means the face, Bahu means the arms, Uru means the waist, and Pada means the legs. This is how the Vedic understanding Bhagavatam says. The Brahmanas are considered to be the head, intellectual. Kshatriyas are the arms. Vaishya is the belly. And Shudra is the legs, which means workers. Whether you take this state or that state, unless there is a smooth, systematic establishment of these four orders of life, the state or society will not run very smoothly. Very, very logical and reasonable understanding, right? There should be, just like, for example, in your house, there's a maid, a servant who is coming and doing some regular duties. For whatever reason, for 1 week he doesn't come. You have to have somebody substitute to do that. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. Or you have a driver who is driving your vehicle every day to your office or some workplace. That day driver doesn't come, then you will be in trouble. So likewise, in society, everybody is required. Everybody has a specific role to play. You go to a barber shop and that barber shop is closed for 1 month. And what you will do? Where you will go? Like that, everybody has his role to play. That's what Prabhupada is trying to tell. Right? Everybody is required in society. And similarly, the intellectual class who can give spiritual direction is also essential. That is what is lacking in present day society. Right? To run very, not that simply we are busy in doing some other materialistic activities is what is the purpose of life. No, that is lacking. Prabhupada is going to bring out this point very nicely. So Prabhupada says further, there was a Brahminical advisory council in the former times. So the professor is speaking now. Generally, it seems to me that this whole Varnashrama system, to some extent, created a natural division of labor in the ancient society. But now division of labor among people in any society is much more complicated and sophisticated. So the professor is giving his version. Maybe it was a simple way of agricultural based society earlier, but now because with the advancement of science, technology, and many other things which the humanity is doing, it is quite complicated and sophisticated. He is telling, professor is telling. So it is very confusing to group them into 4 classes. Again, he's bringing this point. The professor is bringing this point. The 4 divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra may not be possible in the present day society. Prabhupada gives the reasoning why there is confusion. Confusion has come to exist because in India, at a later day, the son of a Brahmana, without having the Brahminical qualification, claimed to be a Brahmana. So the Varnashrama gradually deteriorated into what is known as a caste system. Right? Oh, I am son of a Brahmana, so I am also a Brahmana. I am born in a Goswami family, so I am also Goswami. Maybe he's not having qualification only. Very simple understanding example Prabhupada gives. My father is a doctor, so I am also a doctor. No. You have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to go to medical college, certify yourself or qualify yourself as a doctor, only then you are called a doctor. Just because I am the son of a doctor, I am not called a doctor. Yes, there is good opportunity for you to become a doctor because your parents are doctors. But nevertheless, you have to qualify yourself as a doctor, right? Whereas with regard to these divisions, social divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, again to repeat, it is not a caste by birth. This is the qualification which any human can acquire based on his inclination of work and his type of work. That's the point. Right? Just I was reading recently one article, newspaper article, very interested. Oh, construction labor. This his daughter has passed the UPSC examinations. Right. So yes, possible because that person is having that qualification to move forward as an administrator. A labor or a worker daughter can become an administrator. Possible. So like this, the whole thing is not based on birth but by qualification. But as in India, this has become the problem with regard to by birth. Oh, I claim that I belong to this class, and people are this whole thing has is degraded in this way. And others, out of superstition or traditional way, accepted him as a Brahmana, and this is the way society was conducted. Oh, somehow Brahman family means they are very by caste, so they are always better. Superstition, tradition, made it that way. Therefore, the Indian social order was disrupted. And the Vedic way of life, Varnashrama, was in that way was in that way disturbed or disrupted because of this type of a caste by birth system. But in our Krishna consciousness movement, we are training Brahmanas everywhere because the world needs the brain of a Brahmana. Again, Brahmana means intellectual class who have spiritual direction. Right? Prabhupada has established this movement for that purpose. Although Maharaj Parikshit was a monarch, he had a body of Brahmanas and learned sages to consult an advisory body. See, even in the Vedic times, the king Kshatriya used to have an advisory of Brahminical people or Brahmanas to advise him. So it's not that king used to be independent. No, he was guided by the Brahmanas because Brahmana means intellectuals, brain. It is not that the monarchs were independent. No, they used to be guided. Everything they used to take advice from the Brahmanas. Prabhupada gives a recent example also. In history, it is found that if some of the monarchs were not in order, they were dethroned by the Brahminical Advisory Council. It is a nice instance. The Bhagavatam, wherein one king by name Vena, he was totally against the Vedic principles, and the Brahmanas who had enthroned him as the king, they cursed him and they killed him. So Brahmanas have that power. So Brahmanas will not rule, but they are guiding the Kshatriyas how to rule. That is required, right? That's like my hand requires a direction to work. And direction comes from the brain. So that way there was a Brahminical advisory council in the Vedic system. The Kshatriyas used to consult every aspect of their administration with the Brahmanas. Although the Brahmanas did not take part in politics, they would advise the monarch how to execute the royal function. This was the Vedic system. The whole point Prabhupada is trying to tell us here is that everybody is required in society. If something is lacking, then there will be chaos. This is not too far in the past. How long ago was Ashoka? Prabhupada is giving a practical example. Ashoka, we have heard of Emperor Ashoka. So he's asking this professor only, when was Ashoka part of the history? Professor says, that would be equal to what we call in our terminology, ancient and medieval India. Prabhupada says, okay. The fact the Brahmanas were accepted, right? They formed the advisory committee of the king. For example, Chandragupta, the Hindu king, was in the age of Alexander the Great. Right? You heard of this history, Prabhupada knows quite good history. Just before Chandragupta, Alexander the Great went from Greece into India and conquered a portion. Right? Alexander was on a spree to conquer the whole world. Right? When Chandragupta became emperor, he had Chanakya as his prime minister. Right? And he's asking the professor, have you heard the name Chanakya? Professor says, acknowledges, yes. Prabhupada says, yes. He was a great Brahmin politician. It is by his name at the quarter of New Delhi, where all the foreign embassies are grouped together, is called Chanakyapuri. In New Delhi, there's a place called Chanakyapuri where there's all the countries' different embassies are there. Chanakya Pandit was a great politician and a Brahmana. You see, he was a prime minister, but he was a Brahmana. He was vastly learned. His moral instructions are still available. Chanakya Niti is still available. In India, school children are taught Chanakya Pandit's instructions. Such, wonderful instructions he has given, moral instructions. Although he was the prime minister, Chanakya Pandit maintained his Brahmana spirit. He did not accept any salary. This is the thing, Just like Prabhupada is giving this knowledge to everybody. He's not charging anybody any money. Selling it's freely available. You please come and take this knowledge. This is a Brahmana's business. He's not selling knowledge or rather making money out of this knowledge. No. It's freely available. You please take. And with regard to books, Prabhupada says the printing cost, distribution cost, that is what we are taking from you. Right? That way, Prabhupada was very clear. This knowledge is available freely. That was the Vedic system. There was Gurukulas wherein the teacher in any village used to sit and give free education. But nowadays, education has become a sort of a big business. So the Prime Minister Chanakya Pandit was a Brahmana and used to maintain his Brahmana spirit of not taking salary from the king. If a Brahmana accepts a salary, it's understood that he has become a dog. That is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. If Brahmana starts taking salary, then he's degraded his position. Because he cannot independently give his opinion. He'll be again biased with regard to being maintained by somebody. Brahmana can advise, but he cannot accept employment. See, again, Prabhupada is giving the Vedic perspective. Brahmana is not a caste. Brahmana is actually the qualification of a person acquired, wherein there was a Brahminical council as advisory council for the king, and they can only advise so well that the king used to rule the state so well. And a Brahmana is not under any case employed, or whether he takes any employment. Nowadays we see, I'm a Brahmana, but I'm employed somewhere. This is the state of affairs. He's only calling himself Brahmana, but he's a Shudra. So Chanakya Pandita was living in a cottage, but he was actually the prime minister, just see. Right? He was living in a very simple way. His lifestyle was very simple, but he was the prime minister of the whole state in Chandragupta's time. This Brahminical culture and the Brahminical brain is a standard of Vedic civilization. So Prabhupada wants to stress on, this is required in society. The direction, where you're going, which side you're going. The Manusmriti is an example of the standard of Brahminical culture. Manusmriti, again, directions from Manu himself for the entire society. You cannot trace out from history when the Manusmriti was written, but it is considered so perfect that it is the Hindu law. Right? Many laws like the law of inheritance and many such things are all taken from Manusmriti. Our judiciary has taken many ample Manusmriti's directions. Even now that is being followed. Prabhupada says what has happened now is that even though there are very clear directions of how to conduct society, but unfortunately, present day society has, the government has changed many rules and laws. There's no need for the legislature to pass a new law daily to adjust social order, which means Prabhupada want to say, as per the system which Lord has made, Manu is actually one of the representatives of Lord only. Manu means Manushya. The word Manushya or the man has come from Manu. He is the father of mankind, who has given directions to the entire humanity how to conduct their life and perfect their life. That is called Manusmriti, Vedic literature, right? Dharma Shastra. So already there are enough directions in the Vedic literatures called Manusmriti, how to conduct the human society. But nowadays, the elected government, the democratic governments are trying to pass different laws, trying to adjust social order in their own ways. That is the cause of disturbance. If you remember, the question was, why there is no, we cannot distinguish the social orders the way it was earlier in the Vedic system right now. Prabhupada says it's because the people themselves have degraded. They are following the system of what is known as caste by birth. And secondly, the present day governments are trying to alter the laws or make changes for the existing social order, which is already running in a particular way as per the directions of Lord Krishna through the various scriptures. That is the problem. That is why we see a lot of disruption in the present day society. Prabhupada gives an example now. He says, this Manusmriti is the law given by Manu, and it is so perfect that it can be applicable at all times. That is the beauty of this Manusmriti. The administrative class right now, right, everybody can follow this. It is stated in the Sanskrit to be Trikaladau, which means good for past, present, and future. Just like the sun is rising every day in the east. It is a fact in the past, the present, and the future also. That's how the Vedic wisdom is called the timeless wisdom. Timeless means it is not bound by any specific time scale of, in the past we did this, let us do something different now. No. We had a body earlier, we are having a body now, we're going to continue to have a body. Krishna is telling, if you don't want to have a material body, you do this. This is the timeless Vedic understanding, which Krishna is repeatedly mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita. There's a very nice statement in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter. Arjuna is advised by Krishna that this knowledge which I have given to Sun God, you simply follow. Need not invent, because Arjuna wanted to tell Krishna, oh no, now if I fight, there will be a lot of disruption in the whole way of society, and better I don't fight. So Krishna impresses upon Arjuna by telling that whatever your predecessors, there's a nice verse in 4th chapter which Krishna says that evam jnatva katam karma purvai ravi mumukshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam purvai purvataram kritam. Purva means whatever your predecessors, your ancestors have followed, you simply follow. No need to change anything. Whereas in the modern day, we want to change everything. Change is the new trend. Right? That is the cause of all problems and disturbances, Prabhupada says. So Prabhupada is going to quote an example now, very interesting. He says, our idea is to take the best ideas from the original idea. It's a subtopic which Prabhupada is going to speak now. So this professor has a question now. I am sorry to interrupt you, but to my knowledge, all of Indian society in the second half of the 18th century was, by order of the British administration, under a law divergent from Hindu law. There was a lot of change. The actual Hindu law that was used by the Hindus was quite different from the original Manusmriti. Now, this professor is bringing his viewpoint at how, yes, your point of Vedic system and the Manusmriti is all fine. Everything was very much prevalent. People are following very strictly. But India had to go through some foreign rule. Mughals ruled, and especially when British ruled, there was a lot of changes in the Hindu law being made. What about that? For which Prabhupada says, now they have made a lot of changes in the Hindu law. Even our late Panditji, Jawaharlal Nehru, introduced his own Hindu code. Right? He was calling himself a Pandit, and he could make changes. He was feeling like that. He introduced the right of divorce in marriage, but this was not in the Manu Samhita. You see, as per Manu Samhita, once somebody is married, he is going to be the couple is going to stay like this for life. There was no question of divorce at all. Divorce and all is borrowed from Western idea, Western conception, right? So Prabhupada says this type of a introduction of change of law has happened because this modern day society has adopted the Western thinking, and they're trying to disrupt the existing way of that is why existing system. That is why there's a lot of disruption in society. There are so many things they have changed, but before this modern age, the whole human society was governed by the Manusmriti. Prabhupada again reiterates the Manusmriti, the Vedic way of life, was the way of life as per the Vedic understanding. Strictly speaking, modern Hindus are not strictly following the Hindu scriptures. That's why they are confused. Right? They are following Kichdi. So many things they are trying to follow, and they're not able to reconcile the understanding of what is the actual way of life. They take some ideas from some Western philosophers, some different type of people, and they don't have Vedic background only, and they are so confused what they are doing. Right? This is the reason for disruption and a lot of confusion, chaos in society. Prabhupada is very nicely pointing out these things. Further, Prabhupada says, but our point is not to try to bring back the old type of Hindu society. That is impossible. Prabhupada is being very practical. Yes, definitely, the Vedic way of life guided by Manusmriti is not practical right now. Our idea is to take the best ideas from the original idea. That's why Prabhupada established the Iskcon movement. If you go into the details of what was there in the Vedic way of life, following all of them right now is not practical. So we will take the best idea from the original idea and what is very practical and what is doable by everybody in this present situation. Right? For example, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the description of the communist idea. It is described to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Bhagavatam has a lot of such descriptions. If there is something good, a good experience, why shouldn't you adopt it? That is our point of view. So Prabhupada says, yes, he's acknowledging the professor's point that yes, right now society's way of functioning and disruption, we cannot overnight change it. It is impossible. But definitely there are some concepts and ideas in the Bhagavatam which can be adopted in the present day society for again perfecting our lives. We are, as Prabhupada always used to say, we are not against machines or we're not against technology, we are not against the civilization. We want to tell civilization is lacking something right now, direction they're lacking. You take the direction from the scriptures. Right? That's what Prabhupada want to say. If there is something good in the less, like Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam, there's a lot of communistic ideas, spiritual communistic ideas mentioned. So why don't you adopt them for the betterment of society? Why should you reject them? Is the point. So what is the missing point in modern civilization? Prabhupada says the aim of life is missing. Very nicely Prabhupada is bringing out the points. Besides that, modern civilization is missing one all-important point. What is that? The aim of human life. Nobody knows what is the purpose of human life. Everybody is busy in doing so many activities from morning till night, and whole life finally losing the purpose of life, aim of life. Scientifically, the aim of human life is self-realization. Whatever you are doing, finally you have to realize that you are not this body, you are spirit soul. It's called Atma Tattva. This point is missing. It is said that unless the members of human society come to the point of self-realization, they are defeated in whatever they do. Now, Prabhupada is coming to the right point. Maybe there is lack of clarity with regard to what people are doing, how they are conducting themselves within these four divisions, with regard to these four divisions. But nevertheless, there are some great ideas and wonderful concepts in the Vedic literatures like Bhagavatam, and that is pointing out that you are missing the point of self-realization in this human form of life. And anything else you do, whatever else you do, it's simply a waste of time. If you recall the wonderful example Prabhupada gave in the beginning of our discussions of the science of self-realization, Prabhupada said, you are traveling in a train, you're sitting in a train in an AC compartment, and you are enjoying all the comforts of the AC compartment, all the food, everything is coming on time. What if the train is not moving 1 inch? However long you are staying there, trying to enjoy the comforts is of no purpose. It's of no use, right? You have gone there to have a journey, but your journey is stagnated. You're just enjoying as though everything is very comfortable, everything is fine. Likewise, the modern day context, we may be very much proud of telling ourselves, oh, we have improved this, we have bettered that, we have solved this problem of some other problems. This traffic problem is solved, commutation problem is solved, communication problem. Like there's so many things we will boast ourselves. But where are you heading towards? Where is your life going forward? What all problems you have solved, but you have not solved your main problem of your life. Right? That's what Prabhupada is trying to point out now. So it is said that unless the members of human society come to this point of self-realization, whatever they have done is simply a defeat. Shrama eva hi kevalam, Bhagavatam says. You simply labor. Sorry. Actually, it is happening in modern society. Despite all economic advancement and other advancement, instead of keeping peace and tranquility, they are fighting individually, socially, politically, and nationally. Right? Just recently, 2 days back, I think there's a fight again in the Red Sea because of the the restriction of movement from some other countries. The terrorists are trying to stop the movement of ships and other cargo moving there. So like this, there's always tension, and there's always a feeling that there'll be a war anytime, right? Disturbing the peace and tranquility, the fighting at all levels going on. But if we think about it in a cool-headed way, we can see that in spite of much improvement in many branches of knowledge, we're keeping the same mentality that is visible in the lower animal society. The Prabhupada is making the point. You have got a better life of human form. In human form of life, you can actually have a greater purpose. As Prabhupada says, this human form of life is the best opportunity for us to come out of the cycle of birth and death. But our mentality is like any other lower species of life. What is the point? Our conclusion, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, is that this human body is not meant for working hard for sense gratification. The present day society is only geared up how we can work hard 24 hours and improve the standard of sense gratification. Now I am going in an ordinary car, I want to have a very luxury car. Right? Now I'm in a rented house, I want my permanent house, big bungalow. This is what people were thinking, that now just improving the standard of sense gratification is what is the purpose of life. They have missed out the point. But people do not know anything beyond that. They do not know about the next life. Working hard day and night and one day die. There is no scientific department of knowledge to study what happens after the body is finished. There's a great department of knowledge. This point is missing. So Prabhupada is saying to tell, we are not understanding the very purpose of our life, the aim of our life. And there's no department of knowledge in the whole world, no university giving this knowledge. So we as an organization, an institution, Prabhupada says we are trying to give this knowledge to people. Bhagavad Gita says, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe. Very second chapter, Krishna says this. Deha means his body, Dehina means the one who owns this body. Dehi nosmi yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara. Dehi, the owner of the body, is within, and the body is changing from one form to another. The body is continuously changing. This is something all of us can experience. Deha, Dehi. Deha means the body, Dehi means the owner of the body, the soul. The child has a certain type of body that changes to another type when he's older. Right? All of us have experienced. And we have been experiencing every day. But the owner of the body still exists throughout. Right? The soul continues to exist. The body is changing. Similarly, when this body is completely changed, we accept another body. People do not understand this. Very simple understanding, what is the very beginning understanding of Bhagavad Gita, people are lacking. They think once the body is finished, everything is finished. Right? They don't understand that we are spirit soul. What is the purpose of life? We're accepting different bodies, even in this life, from babyhood to childhood to boyhood to youth. That's a fact, everybody knows. I was a child, but that childhood body is no more. I have a different body now. What is the difficulty in understanding that when this body will be no more, then I'll have to accept another body? It's a great science. Prabhupada is giving a very basic understanding of Bhagavad Gita's very beginning knowledge. That I am not this body, I am spirit soul. This point is lacking in the modern day society. And based on that ignorance, the whole society is geared up for sense gratification and working hard and not understanding the purpose of life. This idea is lacking. When the body dies, the owner also dies. Then this professor is going to give his version now. When he has heard so many things. He's telling, as you know, there are two quite opposite approaches to this problem. Prabhupada has pointed out a very significant missing point in modern society, modern civilization, that people don't know about matter and spirit difference. They think they are matter. That is the problem. This professor is giving his version. He's telling there will be two approaches. Approach is slightly different according to different religions, but at the same time, any religion recognizes and searches for the change of place of experience or transmigration of spirit. Is giving his version. How different religions have their own versions, right? So Prabhupada cuts him off and says, I am not talking religions with you. I am talking science and philosophy. Right? One religion may accept one way, that is not our concern. What is science? Science means everybody is going to accept. Right? The philosophical concept, it's going to be universal. There's no change in this philosophical concepts. So we are concerned with the spirit, with the point that if the owner of the body is permanent, in spite of different changes of body, there should be no difficulty in understanding that when this body changes entirely, the owner of the body will have another body. Prabhupada is very clear that the problem with present day society is that they think this body is everything. They don't know that there's a next life, and they're so irresponsibly living this life. That is the problem. So this professor continues his way of presentation. Another approach is that there is no separation. There are no two phenomena. The body and the owner of the body are the same. See, he is a Vedic teacher in Russia, and he's having this understanding, saying the body and owner of the body is same. There's no difference. There's only one. There's no soul at all. No understanding of soul. Prabhupada very emphatically says, no, it is a wrong understanding. You're right. And further, when the body dies, the owner also dies. Just see. This is what Professor is telling. Prabhupada says, no. But why is there no department of knowledge in the university to study this fact scientifically? This particular point, Prabhupada mentions in many of his talks. I mentioned that I met one Professor Kotowski in Russia, and he is a Vedic teacher, professor of Indology in University of Moscow, and he is telling there is no life after death, and there is no soul. Prabhupada says, look at the level of their ignorance. Right? This is the modern day understanding. Even the professor of Vedic understanding in a foreign country is lacking this basic understanding that I am not the body, I am spirit, soul, and the body is going to end with this life. Prabhupada says, why there is no department of knowledge to understand this in the university? This is my proposition. They are lacking. This particular understanding is lacking. It may be as you say, or it may be as I say, but there must be a department of knowledge to study this. Right? Maybe you are having a version, I am having a version. Let us analyze, no, let us understand, no. Let us not accept anything blindly. Why nobody is studying this point? Prabhupada gave very nice, logic, how your body is changing. Everybody is going through these changes of the body, but you as a person will always identify with that body. Now, Prabhupada gives his personal recent example. Recently, a cardiologist in Toronto, a doctor has accepted that there is a soul. Doctor, famous cardiologist, has accepted. I had some correspondence with him, and he strongly believes that there is a soul. And you say there is no soul. So there is another point of view, but our process is to accept knowledge from authority, not simply speculation. That's the point. We have Krishna's statement on this subject, and he is authoritative. Krishna is accepted as authority by all the acharyas. That's what we want to tell you. The Bhagavad Gita is accepted by scholarly and the philosophical circles all over the world. And Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yavanam jara tha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. Just as the soul gives up the childhood body and comes to the boyhood body and then to youth, the soul also gives up this body and accepts another body. The greatest authority, Lord Krishna is telling this. This statement is given by Krishna, the greatest authority, according to our tradition of knowledge. So we accept such a statement without argument. That is the way of Vedic understanding. Right? So I've taken a few extra minutes today to just make this important point. Basically, how Prabhupada was trying to tell this professor, of course, the Varnashrama may not be implemented the way it was in the Vedic way of life, but nevertheless, the principles of Varnashrama can be followed by everybody in a proper way. That's what Prabhupada is trying to tell us. Because what is lacking in present-day society is that Prabhupada exposed that people are completely in ignorance about what is their identity. I am spirit, soul. That is lacking, and they think this body is everything, or this life is everything. After death of my body, nothing is going to be there. This is atheistic philosophy. The Prabhupada was against that. The atheistic philosophy is spoiling the whole world. It is taking everybody to the darkest hell. Right? Grihamanda Kupam. So that is the worry of Acharya like Prabhupada, who is trying to enlighten the whole world with the proper understanding. Right? So we'll continue our discussions. Many more wonderful discussions like this with the professor and Prabhupada had in our next sessions. So before I close, if anybody has anything to ask, discuss, we can take a few comments and questions. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Srila Prabhupada ki